I can't peer into Rishi Sunak's psychology. I thought it was interesting that over the weekend, he and other leading Tories were saying the local elections pointed not to a clear Labour victory, but to a hung parliament, with Labour falling short. Now, what I find interesting is this is nonsense. I can bore for Britain on the reasons why it's nonsense. My point is that Rishi Sunak knows it's nonsense. And after every round of elections, every party wants to put the best possible gloss on it. And if the best they can say is these local elections point to a hung parliament, something which is plainly untrue, then they've got nothing in their locker. They've got nothing better to say about the local elections. Rishi Sunak is not stupid. He knows his party's in trouble. I think he must know deep in his soul that he will not be Prime Minister a week after the next general election.
So the government have decided they're going to come out. They're not going to mince their words about Natalie Elphicke. Gillian Keegan didn't. And they've also, they can't possibly come on. Keir Starmer's made a decision. He's talked to a few people. And then Annalise Dodds can't come on then and say, well, I disagree.
No, but you just wonder whether in her heart of hearts, that Labour are 30 points clear. Do they need someone who supported her husband convicted of sexual offences, who has called their policies rubbish for years and years and years, was on the right wing of the Tory party? How does that benefit them when they're already doing so well is a question that we haven't entirely had an answer to yet.
9:38 now. So after that electric moment, and didn't they all love the theatre of it when Keir Starmer unveiled his new MP, things have gone a bit backwards for Labour. Some Labour MPs are said to be unhappy that a right-wing former Tory is now on their benches, but a new poll by YouGov puts Labour at 30 points ahead. So will Keir care? It's not easy to say. Peter Kellner is a former president of YouGov. Morning to you, Peter.
Good morning.
Every poll after poll after poll, it just makes great reading for Keir Starmer and terrible reading for Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, and this new YouGov poll for the Times is remarkable. As you say, a 30-point lead. What's happened in the last week, according to YouGov, is not that the Tories have gone down. They were already in a dreadful place on 18%, but the Labour has shot up 4 points from 44 to 48. This, I've been looking through the figures, this is the highest Labour figure that any pollster has recorded since the beginning of the year. There was an Ipsos poll in January, but you put Labour on 49%. These are unquestionably great figures for Labour, terrible for the Conservatives. One small qualification, if I may. YouGov is generally at the top end of pollsters. Pollsters each have their own slightly different methods. YouGov generally has higher Labour leads than other pollsters. But so I wouldn't compare too precisely with a poll coming out the other day saying an 18 or 20 point Labour lead. Compare YouGov like with like. This is their highest Labour lead for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and I know you can't necessarily read too much into this in terms of what people would vote, etc., when it actually comes to it. But if the Tories haven't moved, but Labour have gone up, then who have people changed their minds about and now said, yeah, I would vote Labour? Do we know?
Well, it looks as if pretty well everybody else is down a fraction. The Liberals reform, Liberal Democrats reform, and so on. But these are netted out figures. The churn is almost always more complicated than that. And it is always just possible that Labour hasn't moved that much, but sampling fluctuation has taken place. But what I think has probably happened since the local elections is the message has got through to voters. What they have interpreted from the local elections is that Tories are in a deep mess, Labour's doing well. It's very interesting in this poll, they've asked what they think the result of the next election will be, and 2/3 of their sample, 66%, expect an outright Labour victory. Now, my recollection from pollsters who've asked this kind of question in the past, you've not had that scale of expectation of a Labour victory. So part of it might be that people as well want to be on the side of the winner. There might be a bit of a victory bandwagon going on. Listen, over the next couple of weeks, we'll get many more polls, and these at the moment are theories of mine. They may or may not be true, but there may be a small victory bandwagon effect here.
The other point I just wanted to ask you about, because you know about polling over the decades. Well, it feels relentless, really. I suppose it feels relentless if you're on the losing end of these things. For Rishi Sunak, it must. It feels like it's every 2 weeks or so there is another poll saying the same thing, only worse. It feels for Rishi Sunak. What is the kind of psychological effect of this? And is there an argument that actually a poll every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever saying the same thing loses its impact, or does it not?
Well, to be honest, we're getting usually 5 or 6 polls every week. They're almost daily events from some company or other. And yes, it's right. The message from the beginning of the year has been uniformly terrible for the Conservatives. Now, I can't peer into Rishi Sunak's psychology. I thought it was interesting that over the weekend, he and other leading Tories were saying the local elections pointed not to a clear Labour victory, but to a hung parliament, with Labour falling short. Now, what I find interesting is this is nonsense. I can bore for Britain on the reasons why it's nonsense. My point is that Rishi Sunak knows it's nonsense. And after every round of elections, every party wants to put the best possible gloss on it. And if the best they can say is these local elections point to a hung parliament, something which is plainly untrue, then they've got nothing in their locker. They've got nothing better to say about the local elections. Rishi Sunak is not stupid. He knows his party's in trouble. I think he must know deep in his soul that he will not be Prime Minister a week after the next general election.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much for that. It's Peter Kellner, former president of YouGov.